Hey guys, welcome to DevOps School. In this video tutorial, we are going to learn about Kubernetes. Kubernetes is developed by Google and it is an open source platform that automates container operations. It eliminates many of the manual processes involved in deploying and scaling containerized applications. After going through this tutorial, I promise you that the concept and understanding of the Kubernetes will be absolutely clear to you.
But before that, let me ask you a few things. Are you dreaming of a career with higher pay and more responsibilities? Or are you ready to take your skills to the next level this year? Then start investing in DevOps School certification level courses which will help you to emerge skills for a wide range of entry level roles and as well as higher potential future positions. But with thousands of courses online and in classroom worldwide, finding the right one for your career goals can be difficult. You can consider our courses like Agile Developer, Agile QA, DevOps Certified Professionals, Site Reliability Engineering, DevSecOps, and Masters in DevOps Engineering, where you will have access to well-structured, easy-to-follow course content that has been developed and will be delivered by industry professionals. You can join on our training programs globally through online platforms, and if you are looking for classroom workshops, then we have regular sessions available in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, Delhi NCR, Mumbai, and
So I'm talking about the minions here, nodes, Akka minions. Sometimes we call it nodes, sometimes we call it minions, sometimes we call it worker. So I was talking about the behavior of minions. So minions is a kind of PC which we were talking about this minions. Okay, so minions is a kind of species who's very sad because of uh, you know because of the masters are not available. If you have watched this movie, then you know that. So masters are not there. So in order to find out the master, they travel the whole world, and then they find out the master. Okay, here, and then they request master, please be my master. Let me be your slave. Master says, yes, you are my slave. Then these minions get happy, right? Then again, minions start bugging the master, saying that, okay, I'm your slave, I'm your minions, give me work, I'm free, I'm healthy, I'm available, I can do anything for you, right? And then this is the kind of relationship minion versus master what you have. So this is the character which is completely is the same as it is what we have in the Kubernetes cluster also. So minions, Akka master, Akka worker. So minions has a three component: kubelet and Docker engine and kubeproxy. So what is that? Let's discuss about this. So here, kubelet is the first component in the each node, each worker, each minion, which is basically the main Kubernetes agent which registered a node with the cluster. Remember, kubelet is the Kubernetes agent which is running in the each node of the cluster, and this guy only register a node with the cluster. Okay, and then here it watches the API server, and here kubelet instantiate a pod. Remember, scheduler in the master schedule the pods, but kubelet instantiate a pod and reports back to the master. Master, that means when I say master, always API server, and kubelet get exposed to the endpoint which is a 10255. So this is the kind of kubelet which is running. So this is the real minions actually. So kubelet gets up. That means the moment you kubelet you run it, it look for the master APIs. The moment minions gets up, they look for the master. Kubelet travel the whole computer to find out the master location is in an configuration file. Minions also travel the whole world to find out the master. Kubelet requests the master to become a part of the cluster. So minions also request a master to become a part of cluster. Once the master accept you are my minion, once the Kubernetes master accept once you are my node, then again kubelet keep watching the API server. That means minions keep bugging the API server masters to get the work. Once they get the work, they do the work and then report back to the master. So this is the kubelet, this is the minion. Okay, second component which you know very well, in fact from last 2 years, we 2 days we are spending time with it, that's a container engine. And what exactly container engine here it can do, you know that Docker very well. By the way, beauty of the Kubernetes is, let's say if you do not like a Docker tomorrow, so here you can change the container engine anything. It can be Rocket also. Other container engine it is also possible. There are the container engine. Many container engineers are available nowadays in today's scenario. So you can replace with that. So that's one of the advantage of the Kubernetes. So now let's talk about the third component. Third component of agent worker. Okay, node. What is that? So third, before understanding the third component, I would request you to read all these statements. Remember, we don't know the pod, but one thing we know very much for sure, and that is like a pod has a container, right? So here, all pods can communicate with each other on all nodes. All pods can communicate with each other on the on nodes. Second requirement is a Kubernetes networking requirement. All nodes can communicate with the all pods, and no NATing. That means no -p sort of things we use, right? Proxy sort of it, port mapping. No NATing. So how can it be possible? So let me help you to understand these two statements. See here. This is the one node, worker node. This is the second worker node. Remember, forget about the master. I have already done with the master. So in the worker node, you have a pod. Here, this is the pod. And inside that, you have a container. Here also you have a pod. Here also have a pod. And inside that, there's a container. Now, what it says, all pods can communicate with with each other on all the nodes. That means this pod should communicate with this pod, which is across the node actually. This pod should communicate with it. This pod communicate with it. This pod communicate with it. This pod communicate with it. That means, remember, I said to begin with, Kubernetes helps you to solve the problem of the networking also, because the networking by default with the Docker is limited to the scope is local. So that's the one requirement for the Kubernetes. All pods can communicate with all the other pods across the node. All nodes can communicate with all the pods. That means this is the node. Each node has IP address. So this node also can communicate with this pod. Okay, this pod, this pod, this pod, this pod, and without -p option, without a port mapping option, without NAT, we call it. How can it be possible? So that is been done in Kubernetes.
Rajesh, this is Bharat. I'm not sure if you have already explained what is a pod. So
No, I have not explained what is a pod. But one thing I have got to know, and you also should get to know, is pod is inside a worker, and inside a pod you have a container. And container, what is a container? We know very well. Also, we got to learn, like inside a pod you have a 2, 3, 4 n number of containers you can have it. But what exactly the pod is, I don't know. We don't know. We will learn a little bit later. But one thing, pod has a container. Pod is inside the worker. Make sense?
Okay, got it.
Okay, so this is a Kubernetes networking requirement. So who can satisfy this stuff? Kuproxy. So each worker you have a Kuproxy. Basically, this helps you to Kubernetes networking. Assign a pod. Again, here you see, assign pod IP addresses. Yes, pod don't get IP. A container in Kubernetes container don't get IP address. Think, visualize in your mind. Container is inside a pod, and inside a pod you may have a multiple container, and the pod get IP address by the Kuproxy, not a container here. That means if you want to access the container of any container, then you have to access the pod, the IP address given by Kuproxy. Second statement, all containers in a pod share a single IP. That means in a one pod you may have a multiple containers. So that is also can be accessible by the single IP address. And this kube proxy only helps you to do the load balances across all the pod in the service. So this is the kube proxy, three elements. So guys, in the worker you have main Kubernetes agent, kubelet, Docker as a container engine, kubeproxy, which is a networking services, Kubernetes networking services. So this is a entire architecture would looks like. Look at this. Master has a 4 component and node has a 3 component. Kubelet and kubeproxy communicate with API server, and cluster stores, scheduler, controller, manager also communicate with API server to get all these things worked. Understand?
So Rajesh, in terms of communicating between the pods, right? So in that case, the proxy will assign the IP and all. That's fine, but the communication happens through that proxy itself, or is there any other component which is in between?
No. There's one more. We call it a driver. So kubeproxy, if I want to simplify, I may not be 100% correct right now because it's explanation I'll show you in a demo time. But kubeproxy is like something like a kind of bridge, okay, kind of bridge, which will manage the pods. Remember in the I did not talk about the networking in Docker also, but covered. Someone had asked the questions, what is networking and stuff like that during Docker Compose. So I said bridge is the one which is at the each node which manages the networking of the container. So kubeproxy is a kind of bridge I would say, which has a multiple functionality. It's not only bridging, has a multiple functionality which manages the IP address of pod. Now the question which you ask, how this communication happen? So we typically it happens through the some drivers, policies. We call it in Kubernetes network policies. Now we have so many policies during the demo. If I talk about it, then probably it will not get confused. You will not get confused more because I don't want to get lost in too many things, too many jargons, and to begin with. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
But just to simplify, I mean, I'm just wondering if, let's say, I originate a new HTTP, initiate a new HTTP request from a node, okay, and then will it go to kubelet and then it will go to proxy and go to the other node, or like the pathwise?
Okay. So there's a two things actually. HTTP, when you say that means you are trying to access the containers which is inside a pod. So that's a application you are trying to access. Or second thing is like a kubelet, which is not bothering about the application, who's bothering about whether the pod is created or not. So the kubelet,
Right, okay.
which is in the nodes, which manage the state of the pod, not bothering about the applications. Okay.
Noted.
Okay, guys. So ultimately, in the node, you have a 3 component: kubelet, kubeproxy, runtime, container runtime. Kubelet monitor API server for changes, responsible for the pod management. We call it lifecycle. Report node and pod states. It also helps you to the liveness and prop. Kubeproxy networking, network proxy IP table, implement services. What is services? I'll talk about little later. Routing traffic to the pod and load balancing. Container runtime, again, you know that very well. Download images and run containers. Container runtime interface, Docker, and many more. So guys, other components are also there apart from this, like a DNS, ingress, dashboards, and all. I'm not adding right now in detail because once you get comfortable, these are the things you will automatically learn. Okay, so now we have understood, guys, everything about the master, and look at this architecture. So here, see, you got to know master very well. You got to know node also very well, right? Last is the thing we need to know about the package which human beings write and send through the kubectl. Remember, kubelet is in worker, kubectl is in your laptop. Be mindful about it. Okay, will you remember? So can I go ahead and discuss about the human beings, what they do?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so now I'm going to discuss about the third important component about the workstation. Typically what we call it workstation. My laptop is my workstation. Through workstation I send the request to the API server, and from there how it works, you know that. So now what I write in my deployment JSON file or YAML file, that we need to know. So now I'm discussing about that part. So guys, it's all about declarative model and desired state. Okay, if you look at this, the evolution of the programming language, see, there's so many categories of the evolution which we have, but typically I'll be very simple in this, not complicated. So earlier we had a compiled language, right? Very early stages we had a compiled language, which is very difficult to run, very difficult to learn, read, write, debug, test. It used to take a lot of time. So that release cycle used to be longer. Then we got interpreted language, correct? Interpreted language. So here, see, Java is a compiled language, C, C++, .NET is a compiled language, but interpreted language like a Python, PHP. So these are the interpreted language. So because of this interpreted language, the development is become very faster. Okay. So now we are in the world of declarative language. What is the declarative language? Like YAML, JSON. So nowadays we don't write a program exactly. Understand that. In the current world, we don't write a program exactly, because all this program has been written already, right? All this has been written. We just declare. So first you have a desire, okay? First you know what you want. That's called desire. Once you have a desire, then declare. Where to declare that desire? I am saying again, you're not writing a program. You are just declaring, I want 5, let's say I want 5 chocolate. You are not telling you go to the market, pay money, then bring to home and then eat. You're not writing each and every step. You are saying, I need 5 chocolate. You should get it. You should declare it. It's like you are a kid now. You are just saying, I want it. You are not bothering about how you want it. The bothering about how you want it, you used to write in this compiled language and interpreted language. Now you just desire. So that is what I'm talking about, desire. So first you know what you want, desire, and then declare in what format? YAML format, JSON format. So this is the game of the desire versus declarative model. So in the YAML and JSON, you will desire, describe your desire. What? I want 3 pod. I told you we don't know pod, but still I know few things. Pod has a container. Pod has IP address. And inside a pod, we have a multiple container. Those we have got to know. So yeah, you desire 3 pod of Nginx. So that desire you written in YAML and JSON, you send to API server. Now API server will create 3 pod in the your worker. Let's say if you have a 3 node, how it did happen, you know it very well. API server stored that in etcd. Controller manager responded saying that okay, there's a 0. Scheduler scheduled to the kubelet in the worker, and kubelet instantiate a pod, and inside that Docker engine fill the container inside that. So you got the 3 containers, the 3 pod. So this is so simple, right? You don't need to learn programming language at all. Just know what to desire. Whether you want to eat chocolate or whether you want to eat ice cream, you have to just tell to the Kubernetes. Kubernetes will give you rest of the things, but at least you have to learn and you have to find out whether you want to eat chocolate or ice cream. So that's kind of things. So you want the pod, Kubernetes gave you the pod. Suddenly what had happened? One node got offline. One pod got disappeared. So desire was 3, actual is become 2. Controller manager will come into the picture, you know that. Rest of the things also you understand. Desire and actual mismatched. Immediately new container. I said immediately with the blink of eyes. Kubernetes, you don't have to get up in the night. Kubernetes will replace the third pod. Desire is matching with the actual and everyone is happy. So guys, what I'm trying to say is, you as a human being, what you need to do? You need to know what you want to desire, because if you don't know what to desire, Kubernetes will not understand, and if Kubernetes will not understand, they will not serve you a purpose. So did you understand what is your work? Your work is to know what you want to desire, and that desire put it in the YAML or JSON and then send it to API server through kubectl, and then rest of the things you forget. You do party or whatever you want to do. So this is the one. So the important thing is, how do we know what to desire? What are the feature which API server has it? How do I know? So you have to know pods, controllers, services, storage. Let me tell you, this is not exhaustive list. These are the important one. There are more than 50, 60, more than that, I guess. And every week we get our new object, get introduced, and that you need to keep learning all the time. So this is the things. So let's start with the pod now. So guys, so far so clear? Did you understand what exactly we are trying to hit here, everyone?
Yep.
Any doubts?
Rajesh, you said with an iPod there are n numbers of containers inside, right?
Yes, yes.
So there are any limitations? I mean, how? I mean,
No limitations, sir. I'll talk about that. That question will be answered now.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So now I'm going to start with the learning pods, because this is something which you need to know. So guys, understand this way. It's very important. When I give you VMware, what you create? You create a virtual machine, right? When I give you VMware or VirtualBox, you create a VM. That means my hypervisor, like a VMware, manage the VM. That's cool. You start the VM, stop the VM, right? Use the VM. You go inside the VM and all stuff like that, right? Now, when I give you the Docker, what it manages? Docker is a container engine, so you manage the container. Start the container, stop the container, go inside the container. So here hypervisor manages the virtual machine. Docker manages container. So guys, Kubernetes also has no idea about VMs and container. Remember, who knows about the VM? Hypervisor. Who knows about the container? Docker. So Kubernetes is a tool which has no idea about container or VM. Kubernetes knows pod. In a simple way, what I'm trying to tell you is, if you want to work with the Kubernetes and you want to run some application, you have to create a pod. So pod is a atomic unit of scheduling in Kubernetes. Similar to that, in VMs, hypervisor has a VM and Docker has a container. Okay, that's the one line. Second line, please hear me out clearly. See guys, hypervisors manage the state of the VM. State of the VM, that means it should be the running, or it should be paused, or it should be stopped, or something like that. Have you come across ever say where VMware stating that, okay, you cannot run this operating system inside a VM, or you cannot run that operating system inside the VM? Have you come across? No. From last 2 days, you have experienced about Docker. So have you come across ever Docker stating saying that you cannot run this image or you cannot run that image? No. Docker manages the container, and inside the container basically you can have any images. Inside the VM you can have any images. In the VM you have operating system, whereas in container it's like a images, Docker images. So similarly, Kubernetes also don't say anything about the pod. That means pod may have any kind of container. Same logic. VM you can have any operating system, container you can have any images. Same way, pod you can have any container, any container. Third logic, VM is running as long as, I told you that statement. Do you remember the statement? VM running, operating system running, VM is running as long as VM is running as long as
PID1?
yes. VM is running only as long as operating system is running, and operating system is running because of the PID1 is running. PID1 is not running, operating system is not running. Operating system is not running, VM is not running. See that it's all are connected. So same way, container is running as long as the PID1 is running. So here similar concept, pod is running as long as container inside a pod is running. If container inside a pod is not running, pod is not container inside the pod is not running, pod is not running. So it's so interconnected. So again, let's conclude the statement. Hypervisor has an atomic unit of scheduling, VM. Docker has atomic unit of scheduling, container. So Kubernetes has atomic unit of scheduling is pod. VMs, you can have any operating system. Container, you can have any images. Same way, pod, you can have any container. Inside the VM is running because of the PID1. Container is running because of the PID1. Pod is running because of the container is running, because pod contains container. That's the reason I say, we all say Kubernetes, in Kubernetes, pod is an atomic unit of scheduling in Kubernetes. Make sense? So guys, next statement is containers always run inside a pod. Pod can have a multiple containers that we discuss. Now see that here network namespaces is shared not at the kernel level, container level. In the container which was managed by Docker at that time, network was being managed at the container level, but here it's been attached at the pod level. That means anything which get attached like a network and mount, it's get attached to the pod level, not at the container level. That means you have a 2 or 3 containers, you will be able to access those containers with the same network, and you can attach the same mount to both the container. So that is important. See here, this model in which one pod you have a two container, this is called tight coupling. Sometime what happens, many developers on QA people says, okay, listen, as of now, this is not microservices. We need to run these two services together. In that case, you can run inside a one pod, two containers. They can talk to each other through the local host. This is called tight coupling. One pod and one container, this is a good practice. This is called loose coupling. Both the pods can connect to each other through the network. Try to understand here why this one pod with one Nginx is good and one pod multiple Nginx in one pod is wrong. Remember, pod is having an IP address. If you run multiple Nginx inside a pod, so in that case, what you need to do, only one Nginx will be serving that to the load balancer, not all the Nginx container. So other containers you are getting wasted actually. So it's not serving to the end client. So this is a good practice and this is not a good practice. Okay, first container inside a pod we always call main container. Second container inside a pod we always say sidecar container. Okay, so if you look at this, pods are atomic and pods get the network namespace, mount namespace, and then inside a pod you have a two container, sidecar and main container. Pods can scale to multiple. So when you scale one pod to multiple, let's say 1 to 2, 3, 400, 2000, then initially let's say pod will be in a pending ready state. The moment you scale, it will go into the pending state and after that running state, then succeeded and failed. This is called pod life cycle. That's something similar we had in the container also, but a little bit different. Pod container you can create, start, stop, pause, unpause, all these things you can do that. That's called container life cycle. Here in a pod, first you create a pod, it will get into the pending stage, then it's running stage, and then succeeded and failed. Let me tell you here, look at the pod container which is in pending. It's a gray. So container is not running, pod is in pending state. Container is running, pod is in running state. Containers got exited, pod is in succeeded or failed state. This is the life cycle of pod. So you have a pod, you have a two container, main container, sidecar container. Each pod, each container, you have a running some application. Let's say one is running on 80, on one is another container is running on 5000. So both the containers, if you want to access it, so you have to use the IP address of pod 80 and 5000. That is how you can use it. Okay. So each pod you can connect to the other pod through the pod network, which is powered by kubeproxy. Okay, so here you see. Now, if you want to connect with the one container to another container within a pod, then you can use a local host. But from outside, you have to use the IP address of pod. So guys, this is the pod which you need to know. Pod contains one or more container. It's your application or service, the most basic unit of work, unit of scheduling in Kubernetes. And mindful, this is atomic, this is inferal. That means one pods never ever get redeployed. Again, be mindful, pods are inferal, containers were not inferal, but pods are inferal. That means one pod will never ever get redeployed. So once the pod is destroyed, then again you get a new pod, not the same pod again you get it. Okay, so it's like this. Kubernetes job is to keeping your pods running, more specifically keeping the desired state health to run the pods. So this is the pods. So now, did you understand that pod anatomy? Any questions?
Rajesh, so
Yes.
here we see like the pod, every pod is having its own IP address, and this that IP address is accessible from outside.
Yes.
Like from
within
others.
a cluster. Within
a cluster. Okay, not from
Yeah.
outside the cluster. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
That
what?
means pod is, sorry for the interruption, Rajesh. Yeah, pod is a FM, like, I mean, you use the word, you cannot once destroyed, you
MFERM.
cannot recreate it. Yeah, right?
Yes,
MFERM. So
yeah.
that means you cannot get the same IP address in any given case.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Okay, guys.
Rajesh, just last question. So, if the IP address is only IP address of the pod is only accessible inside the cluster, how will be accessing the same pod from outside, or is it not required?
No, it's not required because of certain reason, and I'll come back to these questions little bit because service is.
So what's the relation between node and pod? So a node can have multiple pods, or it's always
Yeah,
one to
node
one?
can have a multiple pods. Pods can have a multiple container. Kubelet, which is an agent in the each node, manage the pod's life cycle.
So node, can we consider it as one physical machine? Is it?
Yes, it can be physical machine or virtual machines.
Okay.
Rajesh, you mentioned that the local hosting, if they mention it can connect to the, it can communicate within the same thing, right? Same pod.
Yes.
So, but in real scenario, would do they do it any case?
That's what I said. It's a tight coupling. Many times what happens, let's say you are having the product of monolithic architecture. So in that case, what happens? You say, okay, microservices conversion will take a years of time frame. So meanwhile, what we do, we'll convert right now the tightly coupled image. We'll run it in the tightly manner. So you have everything in one pod, but you have converted into the multiple containers. So that way, you can have it in the local host.
Okay. So disadvantage would be it cannot talk to the other pods and things like that, right?
No, you can talk, but you have to use IP address of the pod. You can communicate with the outside also, but for the with the IP address of the pod.
Okay.
Okay, guys. So now the question is, how do you write a YAML file when you from workstation? So this is the YAML file which you have. You can see my screen. API version v1 kind is equal to pod, and then so much of content you write it. So this is the one. So now let's learn more to desire. So you have learned pod. Now let's say you want to replicate the pod to 1 to 5, then use the replication controller. There's a one more API objects. So if you want kind is equal to pod, then you get only one pod. But if you want a 5 pod, then you have to use other API object, replication controller. On top of that, there is one more API object which is called deployment. This is the something which everyone uses, deployment. So deployment has a feature of replication controller. That means you can have a multiple pods also, but it has a rollback functionality as well. So deployment is the production ready right now. Replication controller got deprecated. So it's like this. So guys, these are the pod, replication controller, deployment. These are the three objects what we learned. Remember, pod, you get one pod. Replication controller, you can get multiple pod. Deployment, you can get multiple pod plus as well as rollback feature also. So these are the three API objects. Usually we call it higher level objects while deploying the pod. So these using three objects, you can deploy the pod in a Kubernetes cluster. Inside a pod, you have a container, and that is what you want to run it. Make sense?
But when we say rollback, what exactly happens there? So are we saying the controller's container state is being used as the old one?
Yes. Rollback, right now you understand, you deploy one, you had a deployed one in the production, then you deployed two. Suddenly you realize you made a mistake in 2, so you want to come back to version 1 of your software. This is called rollback. How can it be done? During the demo time, I'll teach you.
Okay. So basically, the containers are rolling back. Is that correct?
No,
I mean,
it depends on that. There's a 2-3 features are there. You want to
okay.
replace the container of the pod, or you want to replace the pod also. So few features are
Okay.
there.
Okay. Understood.
Okay, guys. So now you have discussed about, let me remind you, I have discussed everyone, but one important person is left out. Look at this architecture. And you suggest me who's left out? Look at this architecture. You discuss about the master who manage the cluster. You discuss about worker where you run the pod. We discuss about the workstation who manage the master, and we write a deployment packages. Deployment. Are we missing someone?
Controllers.
kubectl.
What is that?
Is it kubectl? The
kubectl is in workstation, no? You see that image?
Okay.
kubectl,
Okay.
I discussed that. Using kubectl only the desired file you send to the API server. Did we miss out someone?
Qubit.
Scheduler.
Scheduler we discussed, no?
Controller.
No, I mean the ecosystem. In ecosystem, let's say master, worker, and developer. One more person is missing here. See, why you run pod? Why
Slave.
you run container? Why you run? What is the ultimate goal?
User, you mean?
Yes. Think about them, user also. Correct? So ultimately, once you run it for end user only, right? End user only, right? So now let's talk about them. Services. Remember microservices. Services. I said Kubernetes is an orchestrator of microservices. So here services which end user can be human being or other services can access these services. But how? So this is called services. Look at this image very carefully. Okay. In this image, you have a 6 node. Node 1 to 6. Look at it very carefully. Each node you have either 1 or 2 container. Sorry, pod. And each pod you have a 1 container. Each pod you too have an IP address, and containers are a different one. Somewhere is a FE, stand for front end. Somewhere is a DB, database. Also, I said if pods are inferal, that means once the pod is gone, you get the new IP address. So this is your cluster. Now tell me which front end will talk to which backend. See, there is a problem, right? Which front end will talk to which backend? So from the front end you get a request. From the front end you get the backend. Which one? 91 IP address or 44 IP address? Which one?
91.
Why 91? Okay, all the loads will go to the 91. So what is the use of 44? And if all the loads go to the 91, don't you think so you get a bad experience?
It will go to both.
Load balancer. Load balancer will
No,
decide.
it will go to the both.
Yeah.
But what do we need here? You tell me. What do we need here?
Load balancer.
Yes, load balancer. We need in between front end and back end. We need a load balancer. So see, this is the scenario: 6 node, multiple pod, different kind of pod. Why? Because Kubernetes view entire data center as one computer. So Kubernetes can create any pod wherever they want it. It's not like this one. You see, front end in different database in different nodes. So now the question is which front end will talk to which backend. So in this confusion, you need a load balancer. So Second problem, load balancer has a fixed IP address. I hope you might have worked with the load balancer. You know that load balancer has a fixed IP address. But here there is a problem. The problem is ports IP address getting changed. That's the first problem. And second problem is the size also getting changed. That means you becoming a 2 port to the 3 port because of scale it out, scale up. One more problem. Let's say you deploy the new version V1, earlier one, you deploy new version to V2, 2 additional port. Now again there is a problem. So how this load balancer will solve? No, load balancer will not solve. So load balancer will solve this problem. Load balancer will not solve
No,
this
but
problem.
you said that. But you said that it's the kubelet proxy which cares about the IP address of individual pods. So all of them would actually be sending the request to the kubelet proxy, which in turn sends the request to these pods.
Sir, that is the problem. You are saying right, but my problem is different. You are not understanding my problem. Someone has understand. My problem is you have a multiple pod of front end and back end. Now all the front end will go to the which back end? Who will decide? You tell me. Let's say in the front end you say pod number 1. So all the traffic will go to the pod number 1. If you say pod number 2, then all the traffic will go to the pod number 2. This is not a solution, right? That way one pod will be not used, other pod will be used. So someone suggests to fix that problem, you should be having load balancer. Did you understand that?
Right. Now, in that case, in the load balancer, you would be having a configuration saying
Right,
that if
yeah,
the request is coming from 25 or
right.
39, then go to the second
Right.
one.
Yes,
Otherwise,
yes.
go to 91.
Correct. Yes. So that's a load balancer. But you fix that problem. But load balancer also has some limitation, na? Load balancer how they will detect the new IP address of database. Think about it. How load balancer you have to inform, na? It's the manual work. Remember, you have to do the manual work always, and it is not possible to do the manual work in Kubernetes. You keep adding the new pod, scale up, or maybe upgrade, and new pod, new IP address, new version. So how you solve this problem? Load balancer is
No, the
solving one
IP
problem.
address might be new, but the MAC address would still be the same.
Sir, here
IP
there is no
address
MAC
would be new, but the MAC address would. I mean, there might be some unique address which will still continue, but the IP address might change. It's just like a DHCP.
I said very clearly, pods are inferal. That means one pod will never ever get redeployed.
So there
Oh,
should
yes,
be
someone
a
was
direct,
saying someone
There
is
should
saying
be
that
NGINX.
Nginx will do that.
directory service.
Directory service. Can you give me some better word for that? I think you are able to understand, but I need a better word for it.
Service mesh.
Registry where pods can register themselves when they.
Yes. That is what I am. So typically we call it discovery service. Okay. Discovery services we need. See, this is the problem for one. Load balancer is a problem for one, and discovery is the second problem. So the moment new pod get added with certain properties, automatically this pod will be discovered in the Kubernetes and inform the load balancer. See that. So we need a two solution. One is load balancer, one is discovery services. Again, understand that load balancer has a distinct feature. Discovery has a distinct feature. So we need a two solution. So now let's discuss about this. Yes, service. In Kubernetes, the load balancer functionality, whatever it's empowered with, that we call it a service. Let me tell you, if you want to understand in a simple way, it is a platform as a service. That means you cannot modify the behavior of service. Why? Because this feature of load balancing through the service is inbuilt with the Kubernetes only. This is called service. That means pod should hit to the service, and service should redirect, service will redirect to one of the healthy pod. Okay, so now interesting thing is here, service IP address never get changed. Okay, that's the one thing. And service is a persistent, not a ephemeral. Okay, service is your load balancer. See here, 2 more pod got added and load balancing is started happening through the service. Now you see here, this is a bad situation, right? See here, sometime, look at this, understand the scenarios. Service will do the load balancing, but in this situation, there in this scenario, there's one more problem. Here you have a 4 pod which is balanced out by the service, DV service, but the container is V1 in the 2 pod and the V1.2 in the 2 pod. In a simple way, if I put it up, sometime when you log into Gmail, you get a 50 email, then log out, again you log in, you see 100 email, again you log out, again you log in, you see 50 email. Will you accept this behavior? No, of course not, right? One more picture. So how do you solve this problem? Labels, discovery service. So service is basically a load balancer, but how this service will come to know who should be you should be load balancing? Answer is hidden in label rocks. See here, guys, there is one discovery service, DNS, core DNS discovery service, which I did not discuss, but it was in as part of the add-on. So discovery service core DNS is a part of the cluster which always discover, but what it discover? Label of the pod and service. See here, what is a label? Label rocks. So anything you create in Kubernetes cluster, understand that anything you create in the Kubernetes cluster, everything you have to label it. Who will label it? Human being. This is your work. Okay, so you have to label it. So here, if you look at this, service is labeled with the prod B 1.3. One pod is labeled with the prod B 1.3, prod B 1.3, prod B 1.3. Three pod is there. Is it the right labeling? Is it the right labeling or not?
Yes, that is correct.
Think one more time. It is wrong, sir, right? See here, you are labeling one service and same label you apply on the pod, but there is a 2 pod of the database, 1 pod of the authorization container. No, that means sometime first time when you request, service will take you to the database. Second time, it will take you to the database. Third time, it will take you to the authorization. Will you accept this behavior? For example, first time when you log in, you get a Gmail. Second time you log in, then you get a Gmail. Third time when you log in, it will take you to the registration page. Will you accept this behavior? No. So who made the mistake here? Human being. You, me. What mistake? Label it wrongly the pod. Because if you label it, discovery service automatically help a service to load balance the pod. Remember, again, I'm stating the statement, because of labeling of services and pod, your discovery service inform a service saying that this is your pod, because service has a distinct feature, unique feature. It can load balance the pod which is part of the service endpoint. But how this new pod get attached to the service? That is done by the discovery service. Discovery service read what? Discovery service read pods, labels, and service label and match the endpoint of the service. So here you see, the moment you did the modify the service label and remove the 1.3, now it's a pod B, pod B, pod B. So now you see 4 containers, you got it load balanced. Discovery services informed the service boss, I found 4 of your classes, pod B, pod B, pod B, pod B. I don't care about the 1.3, 1.4, 1.3, 1.4, because your service is labeled with prod and B. I will only discover the pod which is matching with your label, means service label. So this is a bad again, right? This is the bad, right? See here, sometime you log in, you go to the 1.4, sometime you log in, you go to the 1.3. So how to fix it? Simple. So what I'm trying to tell you here, if you have a 2 category of pod, so which one will go to the which pod is decided by service. But how the service will get to know which is the right pod or not, that is decided by labels. So you do the right labeling. Kubernetes has a discovery service, automatically discover and inform a service saying that I found your right labeled pods. Please load balance these one. So what is the service? Service only send to the healthy pod traffic, can be configured for session affinity, can point to outside of the cluster, random balancing, uses TCP by default. So someone has asked, how can I access the pod from outside? So yes, can point to outside of the cluster through service. That means if you want to access the pod, multiple pod from outside or inside, you have to use the service. So guys, did you understand about the service?
So Rajesh, yeah. So I got the service, but like service is always the load balancing point. It is not the individual pod we can't access, right?
One pod it will divert the transfer to traffic to.
I mean, like, suppose I want to log into individual pod from the outside, that can't be possible. I mean, it's randomly the service will decide which one to go, depending on the load balancing.
It is possible. You have to create a service with one pod. Simple. In the service, you can have one pod or hundreds of pods. It's up to you, no? You match the label, you get the service.
But is service a mandatory step? If I have only one pod, I'm not doing any load balancing, but I want to access pod directly.
Then within a cluster you can access it, because pods is getting the network IP address. The scope of the IP address is only towards the cluster, only limited to the cluster. If you want to access from outside, so either you have to use service or ingress, or something like port mapping one, just the one which we did in the Kubernetes Docker's class also.
Okay.
Where does the service reside? I mean, in the master or in the node?
So that's a good question actually. So let me tell you here, I stated service is a platform as a service. When you consider Kubernetes as a platform as a service, so where it resides, I don't know. I don't need to know, but it is there. But to be honest, it is managed by etcd and API server, and together with the kubeproxy. It's a platform as a service, so you won't be able to see that implementation from outside, but it will be there. That means you cannot see where is this lying, but you can enjoy this functionality. But the state is being managed in the discovery service component, etcd, API services, API server, and kubeproxy.
It means I
Rajesh,
don't have. Sorry.
Yeah, when you say discovery service, do you mean kube control manager service controller?
No. Discovery services means there is one discovery component. You know the DNS stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So we are using earlier we were using the Kube DNS. Now we are using Core DNS. I mean, not we are using, Kubernetes are using Core DNS. So Core DNS is a discovery services.
Is it similar to Istio?
No, Istio is a service mesh. So I think, so once you learn the Kubernetes, then you should call me for the service mesh, and then I'll teach you. That's the next state after the Kubernetes.
Okay.
This is the one I'm talking about, DNS and service discovery. See, it helps you to service. I explain you, it's a kind of load balancer. So service, which it will load balance, this is informed by Core DNS. This is the product, service discovery. By the way, Core DNS is also used by in a domain name server also. That means when you hit www.google.com, so it redirected to the IP address that is done by the DNS server. So you can have a private Core DNS also. Earlier, Kubernetes were using Kube DNS, which was not production grade label. So they migrated to Core DNS one year before, I think.
Maybe somewhere relatable to
are they similar to?
Yeah, tell me. Yeah.
So is this service discovery? So is this service discovery something similar to Service Console or Eureka?
Yeah, Eureka you can
other
call
service
it.
registries.
Yeah. Same thing you are talking about.
Okay.
There are different products are there. So Eureka is, I think, paid one, I guess. Correct, na? Is it free or paid?
Yeah. And then you can you have a membership there.
Yeah. It's a
you
free
have
one.
Various memberships over there.
Okay. Yeah, something similar to that.
So service is the default component of the Kubernetes.
Yes. Core DNS is the default component of the Kubernetes from last 1.5 years.
It comes with the installation of master.
That's correct. Yeah, master only. That's correct.
Yeah.
Rajesh, Ram here.
Yes, tell me.
Go ahead, Bharat.
Okay. It also means I should be running multiple services if I have multiple types of parts.
Yes, you got it. Yep. So if you have, let's say, 20 microservices, you need to have a 20 service for it. Now, let's say if you have an app service, database service, so you need to have that many services also, because service is the only endpoint. Using that, you can access the pod, multiple pod or single pod also. Single pod, if you have, then you can use the IP address within a cluster. But if you have multiple pod, service is the best way.
Okay, so it means I can instantiate as many services as
many. It's free service, free of cost. You can get it as many.
Okay, thank you.
How many labels we can define?
How many
labels we can define?
So you can add labels as many. Let's say my name is Rajesh, but you can call me Raju. You can call me Raj. You can call me anything else also, but my properties will remain same. So it's like this. So service, you can label it as many times with a different, but the only thing we need to make sure that load balancing will happen only and only when the label of service, again I'm repeating, label of service is matching with the label of pod. Okay, there is one wrong statement I am making right now, but just to make your understanding very simple, I'm again repeating, asterisk, this statement is not 100% correct, but still I'm making it because I don't want to complicate the complication of the services start to begin with. Once I get into the demo, I'll explain you in detail, but right now, once the label of service matches with the label of pod, automatically discovery services inform a service saying that I got your pod. Please load balance this one as well, like that.
Do you mean to say that it is a case sensitive?
This is a case sensitive. So this label is there in the form of keys and values, and to be honest, I never tried to find it out case sensitive from last 3-4 years, but I believe so this is the case sensitive. I believe so. I'm not saying, because typically what I am having habit of it, I put it up thus all the labels in the smaller case, everything. So I never got the chance to look into that bigger case, So we'll try it during the demo and we'll see that how it goes.
Okay.
Rajesh, Ram here.
Yeah.
Are these load balancers are built into Kubernetes, or
yes,
it depends
yes,
on the external load balancer?
No. Service, I said multiple times, service is a Kubernetes platform as a service functionality. That means it's a built-in on Kubernetes. So you don't need to install anything else. You will enjoy this functionality by default in the Kubernetes available. It's available.
Okay, but in which case, because I have we are going to run Kubernetes on cloud environment. So is that we make use of cloud load balancers? For example, if I'm running on this on Azure, so we that as like Azure Kubernetes service.
So, sir, that both the functionality, I mean, both the scope is different. Think about it. Here, I'm talking about the load balancing the pod which is inside your cluster. You are talking about the load balancing of the IP addresses of the node. This service is not load balancing your IP addresses of the node. This service will load balances only the pod IP addresses. That the scope of this service is only limited to the cluster only. So now both the load balancer is needed. This one also needed, that one also needed. But I need to discuss in detail about the properties of the service and type of service, which I don't want to introduce right now because I know many people will get lost. So during the demo, if I show you and then explain you, then it will be very simple for us together. Okay, guys, so we have completed the discussion, deployment, replication controller, everything. So let's recap the discussion. So yes, we have understood. So there is a master has a 4 component. Master manages the multiple nodes. Multiple master is possible. Master has a cluster, stored, API server, scheduler, and controller. Nodes, you have a kubelet, container engine, kubeproxy. In terms of pod, in terms of API object, which you need to know to declare, you need to have a pod, replication controller, deployment, and for the services to load balance the pods. This is the controllers, services, and at last we will talk about installing the Kubernetes. So this is the end of the discussion. So guys, this is how Kubernetes will bring health, wealth, and happiness. And as part of this, we discuss about what is Kubernetes, why Kubernetes, how Kubernetes works, and after the rest of the things will be very easier. I don't see challenges, to be honest, because our job is to learn the API object, that's all, in which I'll teach you anyways, few of them, important one, in the next one day and sometime.
Thanks for watching. To watch our complete session, enroll for our premium membership. Click onto the join button and enroll yourself with the best suited option.
Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries. We will reply to them at the earliest. Want to study further? Subscribe to our paid membership to get a deep dive into each and every topic. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to our DevOps School channel and hit the bell icon to learn more. Keep learning.